caught myself saying this a few times lately. I'll get back to that once things settle. And it sounds reasonable. You're in a transition. You're adjusting. You're focused on what's right in front of you. You tell yourself it's temporary, that you just need to get through this part first, finish this stretch, find your rhythm, then you'll circle back. But the more I sat with that, the more something about it didn't feel quite right. Because when I looked around, nothing else in my life was actually waiting for that moment. It was still moving, quietly, consistently, without asking if I was ready, including the parts I had convinced myself were paused. And once I really saw that, not just an idea, but as something real, it changed how I moved through my days. Welcome back to the Motivated Savages podcast, where we live bold, lead fearless, and ignite our path forward. I'm Jody Savage, and this episode didn't come from one big moment. It built over time, through small realizations that keep showing up as I've been moving through this current season. I'm in a transition right now, not fully in it yet, but right on the edge of it, closing out something I've known for years and preparing to step into something new. New role, new environment, new expectations. And even before it officially begins, you can feel the shift. Your focus starts to change. Your attention tightens. There's more to think through, more to prepare for, more sitting in the background of your mind. You start organizing things differently, wrapping things up, getting ready for what's next. And when you're in a moment like that, it's natural to narrow your attention. You focus on what's directly in front of you. You put your energy into making sure everything is handled the right way. You stay present with what needs to be finished, what needs to be set up, what needs to be carried forward. And somewhere in that process, it's easy to believe that the other parts of your life are just waiting for you to come back to them, waiting for you to have more space, waiting for things to feel more settled. That line of thinking makes sense. It feels responsible. It feels logical. But what I started to notice is something just a little different. Nothing else in my life was actually waiting for that moment. It was all still in motion. And more importantly, I was still shaping it. We tend to think of life in segments. We mentally divide things into before and after. We tell ourselves we'll come back to certain things when the timing feels better, when we have more space, when things slow down. But when you really look at it, there isn't a pause between those moments. There's continuity. Everything carries forward. Your habits don't stop. Your mindset doesn't pause. Your patterns don't wait. They continue quietly in the background. And inside that, you're still making choices. Not always in a way that feels deliberate, but in a way that's consistent. You're deciding what gets your attention, what you spend time on, what you come back to in your mind, what you delay, what you follow through on. And those decisions start to shape direction. Not all at once, but steadily over time. That's the part that's easy to miss, because nothing about it feels dramatic. It feels normal. And normal is powerful, because what feels normal becomes your baseline, and your baseline influences everything. It shapes how you think, how you respond, how you show up without even realizing it. I saw this clearly with my website. Over the last month and a half, my focus shifted heavily. I've been closing out one chapter and preparing to step into another. There's been a lot to learn, a lot to think through, a lot to hold at once. And naturally, something else got less of my direct attention. I wasn't creating at the same pace. I wasn't building the way I had been. I wasn't spending hours inside of it like I was before. And for a moment, it would have been easy to label that as falling off. But when I actually looked at it, that wasn't what was happening, because it didn't stop. It's still getting hundreds of visits a day. People are still finding it, still moving through it, still engaging with what I've built. And that mattered. Not just because of the numbers, but because of what it represented. It showed me that when you build something with intention, it carries. It doesn't disappear the moment your energy shifts. There's momentum in it. There's structure in it. There's something there that continues even when you're not actively pushing it forward every single day. That foundation holds. At the same time, it showed me something else. Even while I'm stepped back, I was still shaping it. Through what I choose to come back to. Through what I let sit a little longer. Through how I was thinking about it in the background. Through the decisions I was making about what comes next. Nothing had paused. It had just moved into a different rhythm. And that shift didn't feel negative. It felt informative. It showed me where my attention had been going. It showed me that I had been reinforcing without really noticing it. And it reminded me that I still had a say in how I move forward from here. Not by forcing anything, not by trying to catch up all at once, just by stepping back in with intention. That applies across everything. There isn't a part of your life that's sitting still, waiting for the perfect moment to pick back up. Everything is moving. Your health, your work, your relationships, your mindset. It's all responding in real time to how you're showing up within it. And that doesn't mean you need to manage everything at once. It doesn't mean you need to control every detail. It just means you're not separate from it. You're part of it. Even in the quieter moments. Even when your attention is somewhere else. Even when you think nothing is really happening. Something is always being reinforced. And once you start to see that clearly, something shifts. Because you stop thinking you need a reset. You don't. You just need awareness of what's already in motion. I think a lot of people picture growth as something that happens later, once things calm down, once they feel more prepared, once they have more time. But it doesn't work like that. Growth happens in the middle of your life as it is, in the middle of your responsibilities, in the middle of your transitions, in the middle of everything that feels unfinished. That's where identity is built, in what you repeat, in what you return to, in how you move through an ordinary day. The version of you you're becoming isn't waiting somewhere else. It's being shaped in real time, right here. Before you move on from this, take a second and think about it for yourself. Where has your attention been going lately? Not where you want it to be, where it's actually been going. What have you been reinforcing without really noticing? What patterns have quietly become part of your day? And if nothing about your life is on hold, what direction are you moving in right now? There's no need to judge it. No need to fix everything at once. Just notice it, because that awareness is what gives you options. I've also felt this in a smaller, everyday moments. Even when something isn't working out. There are days where it feels easy. Days where everything clicks and I'm fully in it. And then there are days where my body is sore, where my energy is lower, where it would be easy to skip it and tell myself, I'll come back tomorrow. But even in that moment, I can see it clearly. I'm still choosing. Choosing whether I stay consistent. Choosing whether I follow through. Choosing whether I continue building that version of myself. And those moments don't feel big. They don't feel like defining decisions. But they add up. They build direction. They reinforce identity. And that's the part that matters. Once you really understand this, the question changes. It's no longer, how do I fix everything? It becomes, what direction am I moving in? And then, is that aligned with where I want to go? That's a much calmer question, a much cleaner one. Because it doesn't require a full reset. It just requires a small adjustment. A shift in attention. A shift in energy. A shift in what you choose next. And those small shifts are what create momentum. Now here's what I want you to take with you. Keep it simple. At some point today, notice one moment where you would normally move on autopilot. Something small, something routine. Pause just for a second and ask yourself, what do I want to do here? Not what you should do, not what's perfect, just what feels aligned. Then follow that, even if it's small, because that moment is enough. That's where the shift begins. Nothing about your life is waiting for you to catch up. It's already moving, and you're part of that movement. Not just in the big decisions, but in the small ones that happen every day. The ones that don't feel important at the time. Those are the ones that shape everything. And now you can see that, which means you don't need to start over. You just need to choose your direction a little more intentionally from here. I'm Jody Savage, and this is the Motivated Savages podcast. Live bold, ignite your path. That's the Savage way. If this message resonated, share it with someone who needs a reminder that nothing in their life is on hold and that they already have more influence over where they're headed than they think. And if you want to carry this message with you, check out our merch line at motivatedsavages.com. We've designed gear to remind you to live bold every day. Together, we're building the Savage community, a movement of people choosing purpose, growth, and bold living.